did a block, a nerve block.
No,
and so
wait
I
until
think-
that goes away.
Yeah, this would be Monday morning, Tuesday, Wednesday, so it's been,
So that,
like, it's
when-
going okay so far,
when the
but,
block wears off,
yeah. That's
and
what
then the block wears off and you give it a good solid half a day, a little bit longer, that's when it really starts.
yeah, so, they didn't have to do his rotator cuff, so that helps a little bit.
Oh, they didn't? Oh,
No.
yeah, because I had my rotator. Oh.
Yeah, no, they said that's lucky, cause that's worse.
Oh, it's bad.
Than what you had,
It
so,
stinks. It's a longer recovery, like it's way longer.
yeah, it shouldn't be as bad as that, but. Yeah, I would guess that the nerve block will wear completely off here in the next day or so, and then he's probably gonna need to start taking some of his pain meds, but. The whole first day, he was like, okay, my arm is just dead weight, I can't move or anything.
It is, you just feel like you want to move around and
Yeah.
stuff.
He's like, I feel like I'm gonna like hit it on doorways and stuff, cause I can't feel it.
I had a teacher like that, in middle school.
I'll just
Polio,
put
you
you
know,
on
polio,
hold
you
there
know?
so you can
It's
hear.
so
We'll
she'd
just
turn
do
around
like
and her arm
the minutes and that sort of thing.
And she would
Now.
try, she normally,
Overview
she's pretty good about it, but if somebody, she had a turn
Just to
quick.
get us going and
Yep.
probably just a few minutes out by now. What's that? Perfect, sounds good. I'll put you on speaker, okay.
Okay, perfect. Let's call the meeting to order then. Looking at the agenda here, is there any additions or changes that anyone needs? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as listed.
Yeah, a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, I'm gonna just write that, just so. All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, seeing no one here to talk, there's no visitors to be heard, so we'll move on to the Park and Rec Board minutes from November 19th. Just to approve those.
I will approve as written.
I'll second.
Okay. All right, so approving the minutes, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, then we'll move on to new business, starting with the Parks and Recreation policy revisions.
All right, I can take it over and give you guys a summary here, but I know I had gotten some feedback from the team at our last meeting, just with some of the items within our former policies. So I was trying to decide whether this is technically new business or old business, but we'll move forward as such. But just a quick summary, the policy documents I spent significant time on in the last month, quite a bit of time. It was a fun process. I reached out to a lot of different communities, got some different feedback, received policies, from other communities and tried to look at, what could we potentially use or change and that sort of a thing. The content, there's much of the content that is real similar to what it had been, but there's a lot of reorganization to it. So if you had looked at it, ahead of time, I didn't make copies for tonight because I know they were very large documents, but we did make quite a bit of an arrangement with the table of contents and like the subchapters and so forth like that. Additionally, one of the main changes was there were some of the policies that it was good to have down on paper, when there wasn't, a full-time position and that sort of a thing here, but it was more process oriented. So timelines for our sports activities, some of those sorts of things. So I did remove quite a bit of that content out into that second document, which was the program operations manual, which was also attached in the diligent community. And so I just wanted to make sure that y'all knew that that was still there, and I spent quite a bit of time making sure, like looking ahead at 2026, all of those program timelines and so forth. Just wanted to hit the highlights on the policy document. So a couple of the more significant things I wanted to highlight. I did add for the advisory board framework the section under codified law for the state law authority for park boards, in addition to the city of Lennox ordinance language. So I just did a simple copy and paste because I think it's good for us to be able to look back and have at our fingertips. So that was added on there. And then I did have just a couple sentences about this board's role in recreation. It's not on paper, it's not a formal, thing that this group is looking at rec, but we really do rely upon feedback as needed from this group, so that was added. The facility use chapter 3, I don't intend to spend time discussing it. If you have questions, please bring them forward on that section, but we are consulting an attorney on that, so a memo went out today on that just to make sure that we're on the up and up on mainly the facility use agreement itself, but then also for those using any of our facilities, for their certificate of liability insurance, if we should be added on as additional insured on those or not. So more to come on that. We can approve as is, today if you see fit, and then before it goes to city council, if there's changes made, we'll make sure that that's reviewed at city council. A couple of the others, we had, I just added in a section with campground rules that hadn't been on there. They were made known on our website, so I just added them into this policy as practice has been. Much of this is a lot the same for the rest of chapter 4. Again, a lot of rewording, just kind of trying to be consistent with formatting and how we go about so that it's, kind of more formal in nature as well. I did add under the coach and volunteer section a one-on-one policy, basically stating that coaches may never be alone in a one-on-one situation with a participant, and it's up to the coaches, parents, and volunteers to work together to avoid those situations. And then we did have a pretty minimal section in there in the last iteration of the policy on the swimming pool. So I spent significant time on that, and there was a lot added into that section. I pulled out a couple of the things that had been in policy that I felt were more internal process and employee related items, so I'll have a separate employee handbook. There already is one that is yet to be kind of reviewed, but those were pulled out. And then we added a bunch of items in there for your review. General facility policies, supervision. I did add some sections in there into kind of the requirements or the expectations for parents and caregivers to be within arm's reach of their child if their child is a non-swimmer. For developing swimmers, to make sure that they're in constant visual contact and in either on the deck or within visual sight, so that they can react and help with that as needed. And then independent swimmers, this had always been practice that we would allow kids around the age of 8 to come without, being accompanied by a parent. I did look at other communities. Some were 7, some were 9, some didn't have any, but we had put ages 8 or older if they're an independent swimmer and if things like behavior and safety are going to allow for that child to be there by themselves. Staff, of course, has then the authority to be able to change those supervision levels or recommend, different things of that nature, and potentially even require a swimming competency test just to make sure. Safety is of utmost importance, so we just want to make sure that the lifeguards, their job really is to be there to help ensure the overall swim safety. They're not, not there to,
They're not babysitters.
Right, they're not there for, babysitters, and they're there for emergency response. And the scanning related to that, so. Facility closures, we had a couple, again, we'd kind of been following some of this, but it wasn't really written anywhere, and I did add a couple of things according to what I learned from other communities and kind of what best practices are, but, either Nate, myself, or one of the pool managers or a designee can close the pool if the patron number falls below 10, for example. Unsafe conditions, whether it be with chemicals or anything electrical or something going on at the pool. If the air temperature is below 68 degrees, and inclement weather or any other thing deemed appropriate.
Is there anything in there about if it does close, how do we notify, or do we?
So we have in there that it will be notified, but that'll be over in the
That's
employee,
okay.
yeah, in that employee handbook. But we'll make sure to make that available for the public so that they know
Yeah.
kind of how that's gonna be communicated out. Yeah, good question. And then we added in sections with health and hygiene. There's about 8 bullet points there. General conduct, pool deck items, water safety items. I'm not gonna go through them all. This was a very large document. And then quite a few bullets on the diving board and the deep end, kind of the expectations. Almost all of this was, I would say, practiced mainly at the pool, but not necessarily written down or, I just wanted to make sure that we were clear so we can have some enforceable safety expectations just for the sake of keeping everybody safe. So that was about it in a nutshell on the policies. So I just wanted to be sure that I gave everybody a chance, again, if you had any markings or questions that you had on that, things that you had questions on why we wrote, I wrote things a certain way and that sort of a thing. If there's anything from the prior policy that, was taken out that you're questioning or any of the above. So we can definitely open that up for discussion.
I didn't see anything that was, because if there was something that's moved to a different area, and I think it looks good. I don't.
Yeah.
Well, that was a great meeting, guys.
It also, there's a lot of stuff that I think was supposed to be changed, like had to be updated a lot. Like we'd have to update what league we were playing in for
Right.
baseball and stuff, and we never kept up with that. And the way this is, now we don't have, that's an operation thing, we don't have to look at it and review it and change it each time.
100%, I'm glad you
So-
mentioned that. That was a big part of moving that out too. So this is more higher level,
Yeah, general.
rule-based, policy versus some of those kind of day-to-day things that we can change and yeah.
So, yeah, I think it looks good.
Christy, Sailor, any specific questions on the policy draft that was sent forward?
I did not have
Okay.
any, no.
Well, I'm gonna motion to accept the policy as been edited to be presented.
Okay?
I'll second.
Second? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, and then, so that was all kind of one thing, right?
Yeah, that was the policy.
Because the other stuff doesn't have to be, okay?
Yeah, I did, if it's okay, this was the one that we really kind of wanted to vote on, but I can give a quick overview of this program operations manual, just because it's a new thing now and it's quite a bit more robust than it had been. Just for initial review, if there's anything you think, we should be adding to that, and then from there, I kind of see this will be my working
Right.
document to
Right.
use, as
Okay.
the manager of that, but. And also on the policy, of course, as things come up, just like always, we can make changes and recommendations as needed, so. So on the program operations manual, essentially, I've gotten to the point of almost all of the youth programs that we currently have, with the exception of our recreation activities, kind of whether that be the one-off things throughout the year or our summer rec activities, so that is yet to be in here. But for each of the other activities that we already have, that have kind of a standard season, if you will, I have in here the program timelines for each, the fees, the player eligibility, practice and game information, what leagues we're in, those sorts of things, the age groups. So that's for all of our sports activities. And then in addition, just to highlight a couple of things within baseball and softball, I did add some umpire expectations. I added, per our discussion at our last meeting, that jersey kind of return policy and recouping, money if not turned in and that sort of a thing, and I'll be tracking that in my records. For baseball tournament teams, again, per our discussion that we had at our last meeting, I went and kind of crunched the numbers, and so we'll move forward. The city council are going to look at fee schedules, and so the tournament teams that are selected for 10U and 12U will have an additional cost of $60 once they accept that, and they'll have a kind of a separate registration for that. That will cover 2 tournaments, and then in addition to the state tournament, which is through their other registration costs, the regular, baseball cost. And then for softball, the registration cost, again, we can't have tournament teams for softball, right? So we will have, and this has always kind of been practice, that, we will cover a tournament, if it works for that particular softball team. It was always kind of, maybe a little bit of a question if it's going to be for what age groups and things. So per the manual and per kind of the prior discussion at last meeting, we'll have the city through the registration costs cover 10, 12, and 14U registration into the state tournament. And if any softball team wants to do more than that, then they can do that at their own cost, similar to the baseball program. And then adding that we meaning the city of Lennox, I will be registering all softball teams with USA Softball at the start of the season. I contacted T in Harrisburg, one does, one doesn't, sort of a thing, kind of depending on how many go to the state tournament. Really, that was kind of the key factor, but there are some additional benefits in terms of having a little bit more insurance policy on that as a team and so forth. So we'll move forward for all softball teams to have that, submit that registration process. And then when it comes to T-ball, we did add the little, I'm just calling it tiny T's. I thought it was cute, I don't know. So for the 4-year-olds, just to reach kind of that younger group, get them excited. There's not gonna be game situations. It'll be more drills and fun and kind of play-based. And then moving co-ed T-ball, so we're gonna move it to co-ed, and then also have that and these new little tiny T's be after the softball, baseball season. So I have mapped out, and it's gonna kind of depend on the year and where the 4th of July falls, but for this upcoming year, I'm proposing June 29th to July 31st on Mondays and Tuesdays, and kind of have some of the times mapped out that I don't need to go through in detail, but it was in your packet, so. Soccer, I took the feedback from the surveys, and a couple of them were like, it'd be kind of nice if certain age groups maybe played at a specific time from week to week or on certain fields, and to try to just cause a little bit more of a streamline. So if in fact the number of registrations match up close to what it was the prior year, I kind of have it worked out where with our 4 fields, we can have pre-K and kindergarten on on 3 of those fields from 10 o'clock to 11, and then 1st and 2nd grade the hour before on those 3 fields, and then the oldest age group, the 3rd and 4th, being on the larger field, because that's a different dimensions of the field. They'll be at one or the other, and we'll be able to fit all of the matchups, again, depending on the amount of teams that we have. And then on the co-ed flag football program, similar, I looked at the game times. A couple people that I talked to said that junior football has 2 20-minute halves, so a 40-minute game, so we'll move forward with that. And then again, trying to have certain age groups at certain times on certain fields when possible. So those were the main, things that I wanted to highlight on that, but certainly open to any feedback that you had on those.
Just good to get it down.
Yeah.
So that way everybody has any question, it's down. There's no,
Yeah.
well, so-and-so.
Yes.
The manual.
Right.
Yeah, like it.
And then for I have a program timeline, which is like the season length and when the registration opens, when it closes, when I need to order jerseys and when we have the distribution of equipment and just kind of jotting those down and getting that basically down in my records so I can, it's a lot to try to, maintain all of that, so just to have something and a guide per activity, I think will be helpful, and I can get that all on my calendar, so. Any thoughts?
I like it.
No, I like it.
I'll motion to move forward with this one as well.
We don't have,
You don't have to
Tuesday,
on this one.
okay.
I just wanted to get feedback if you have it.
Perfect.
so.
I'll motion to not have to motion.
so then we're ready to adjourn. So you can motion.
Hey, thanks, Coach Taylor.
Can you guys tell me who motioned?
Christie
on
and
the-
Clint
Yeah.
In that
and
order?
Christie.
She got the first
Okay.
one.
Yeah, perfect.
I was like,
So-
come on, Kalakasi. I was like,
First two were Christie and Clint, and then the last one was
I got
Clint
that.
Christie.
Okay, perfect.
But now we're looking for one more
one more
motion
motion.
to adjourn.
Bye,
You
Benson.
wanna get
Motion
on
to
that?
adjourn.
In on this? Yeah,
All right, do I have a second?
second.
Christie. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, perfect.
Thank you guys.
And I gotta go bring my kid
The
hat
good,
and gloves,
the good thing about the,
cause he's
For-
caroling
Oh,
or something.
Yes, they are.
Way to think ahead.
the fall meetings, the /winter meetings are way less involved.